Hey, welcome to the My Voice and Power radio show and podcast. Join myself and regulars every week and hear what we have to say on a variety of topics. We also welcome you to have your say in the comment section or by joining us here in the studio, which you can do by dropping an email to myvoiceandpower@outlook.com. Also, don't forget to tune in to the My Voice and Power show live every Thursday at 9 p.m. on www.unityliveradio.co.uk or download the app from the App Store. Welcome to the My Voice and Power podcast with myself, Nyasha Brown. Today I am here with
Nathan Lewis.
How are you today?
Tired, but that's the permanent state at the moment, so it's all good.
Busy weekend?
That's what happens when you have a child that likes to go to parties and lots of sports and exercises. So, yeah, this is the norm.
Oh,
but
cool.
Yeah, weekend's been great.
Yeah, cool. What are you up to next?
As sad as this sounds, and which is probably going to date this, I'm going to go home and watch Gladiators on TV because
oh my days,
it's the greatest thing on TV for a while. So
I cannot believe they brought that back, but I'm also so excited that they brought it back. I watched it the other day. I missed last week's one, so I need to catch up on that one. But I don't know, it's mad. I was thinking the other day when I saw it was on, I was excited because oh yeah, let's see what this is going to be like. Because, you know, sometimes they bring things back and you're like, yeah, what have they done to it?
They tried before.
Yeah. And that first episode cracked me up. That guy, I can't remember his name, but all I kept thinking while I was watching it was his gran buoyed him in the video to begin with. And then he ended up not doing so well. No one knows you better than your grandparents.
No. The sad thing is, I always remember, what do they say, it's 20 years since he's been on TV?
Really?
Yeah, but I always remember watching it when I was younger thinking, I could do that. Easy, I could do that. And then over time, as age catches up with you, now look at it and go,
No.
I just don't want to, I don't want the hospital girls. I don't want to be in crutches for a while. But, you know, all power to them. I enjoy watching it.
Yeah.
But then there's still people that are my age on it, running up and down. And
so what's your excuse, Nathan?
I may be 41, but I feel 81.
Okay.
So that's my excuse. I just feel tired.
And they say you're as old as you feel, so I'll let you have that one.
I was being conservative. So not like 100. But yeah, just getting up out of the seat is going to be difficult, I'm sure.
Okay.
So, yeah, creaky bones.
So what I was thinking the other thing I was thinking when I saw it was that actually in this generation or lifetime or world or whatever, with everything that is going on right now, do you think that show is a good idea?
Yes.
Because
innocent fun. And I say this because my son also watches Masked Singer. Innocent fun. What they call Anton Deck Saturday Night Takeaway, where it's called Innocent Fun. It just feels like I call it bubblegum TV.
Yeah.
So you can sit there and you can just mull it over, chew it over, but at the end of it, you forget about it, get rid of it. And it's not heavy. It doesn't play on your mind, doesn't play on your mentality, it's just, I can watch it, forget about it, move on to the next thing. Whereas in reality TV, we won't start reality TV, but
okay.
Yeah.
But so there are some parts of Gladiators where they fight.
Yeah. But and I will caveat this by saying, yes, it looks aggressive nature, but they're holding big calm wall buds, or they're holding big foam things, which isn't what you'd find out in the street. So I think it's also a way of getting rid of pent-up aggression, I guess, with the visual sticks and whatever they use. But I think compared to some of the movies we've got, compared to some of the TV programs, it's lighthearted, it's fun. There's an element of comedy. It's big, bright lights. It's entertaining. It's not taken seriously. So, at least I hope not.
Well, and see, this is the thing. You can't tell or foresee what is going on in other people's minds when they're watching these kind of things. So that, in the grand scheme of things, like you compared it to like the things that we see on TV, then when I was talking to Alex about this the other day, gaming come up in the conversation. And then there's music, which this ultimately all links to, because how do you think these things are able to impact the actions that people carry out?
It's difficult because, as an example of my son, he went to martial arts this morning, and the whole point, and I've discussed this with my wife, the whole point is to try and encourage him to use that pent-up frustration or use that energy in a controlled fashion, in a disciplined fashion, to be able to do that. So, but then he's 5, so he sees kicking and punching, and then he just does it because he thinks that's what he's supposed to do. But you have to say, look, that's not what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is you kick a pad, you don't kick a person, you don't punch a wall, you don't punch the floor or a sofa or anything like that. It's a pad that you do, that you kick and punch in. So he's getting that, which is fine. He's 5. So, you give him the benefit of the doubt. As soon as you start to get into an age where people understand what they're doing properly, then there should be an element of common sense, which is difficult to look at these days, but there should be an element of common sense to say, if I punch that person, there'll be repercussions and it won't be nice. And it's horrible. It's okay in a movie because it's make-believe. Some things look realistic, but it's entertainment. It's not real life, shall we say. That's where the common sense piece comes in. Now, I know common sense is few and far between for some of us, but there should be an element of, that's kind of wrong if I do that myself. I mean, it doesn't help when you've got things like boxing or MMA or UFC, because they are people beating each other up. But then if people want to do that, then they go and do that in a controlled environment, in a ring, in UFC, and that's how it should be, not out and about. But it'd be boring if we were all the same. People think differently.
Yeah, there is that, but how do we know it would be boring if we all thought the same, if it was a more pleasant place to live? Because none of these bad things would be happening.
How deep do we go? So
everything deep, everything is deep, and that's like, so like, look, we've been able to connect a TV program, a light-hearted TV program, to a movie where much more goes on, to then music, to then real life. So everything impacts itself really on a much deeper level.
So there's layers. So I'm ad-libbing here because I have to think about this, how I'm processing it in my head. There's layers. So, back when we were kids, an 18 film meant there was something that was really, you had to be 18 and able to watch it. And looking at 18s now, I don't even think they're quite 18s. I think it's just kind of 12, 15, and then I would say like standard rating of 15 is now is what 18 was back when we were kids. So the level of acceptance, the level of people accepting what they're watching is reasonable for that age has changed. So people's expectations of violence, I think, has probably increased to the point where they go, that's all right, my kid can see that. Not really. It's still violent, or still ultra violent, or still whatever it may be.
But it's make believe. You said that yourself.
It is. It's make believe, but kids' mentality is different to what it was when we were growing up, I suppose. And the reason why I say it's multi-layered, so when I'm putting my son to bed, I found a book that I used to be read to from my parents, and it's the book of Bible stories. Oh, okay, cool. This will be good because it won't be too ultra violent. It'll be peaceful. It'll be nice. I've started reading the stories, and I'm like, wow, this is this is deep in the sense of talk about killing, wrong people. All people are angels, but there's some angels that decide to think differently, and that's why God then created the mass flood, which is Noah's Ark, and wiped out those people. You think they're quite detailed, gruesome images when you think about it.
Yeah.
But we were taught that when we went to school and went to church, and from an imagination perspective, it's not so bad. But now you're seeing that from a younger age in programs because they dropped the acceptance level of those ages. So back when we were younger, it was more stories rather than seen. Now it's less stories than just seen. So even though even as a younger person, your mentality is not fully built, it may be make believe to us as adults, but for kids, it's like, oh, well, that looks like it's the normal thing. I see it all the time on different programs and different TV snips and social media, which is another thing. I think it's just a general acceptance level now.
So where do you think music fits into this? Because the reason why this is a topic for me this week is because, like, I love music, always listening to it, different genres, whatever. Yeah. But when I go back and I'm like you vibe to the music, you're like, yeah, and then you like get into the words, and then you start to realise what you're singing or hear what they're saying, and you think, how was I listening to this at the ages that I was? And do you think that it's had an impact on how we've been able to unite as a people?
So I had this conversation with my wife yesterday. I said, well, if you listen to 90s music, it was pushing boundaries in the sense it started to touch upon areas that probably hadn't really thought of before in music. And they may have been touched upon in the 70s and 80s, but tastes change and expectation levels change. So 90s went a bit more, especially R&B. I mean, there are some amazing songs out there by amazing artists. And you think, oh, as an example, Next, Too Close, you go, okay. When I think about it, yeah, when you think about it, it's got a great hook, so I listen to that.
Yeah.
It's got a great, but then I start to listen to the lyrics and go, oh, you wouldn't sing that out loud in front of your 4-year-olds or 5-year-olds. But then I started to think, well, R&B was fine because rhythm and blues, it's fine. It's supposed to be around emotion, it's supposed to be around that element. But then I started to think about 1990s hip hop, and that got deep when I started to think about it because in the early 90s, or should I say, in the late 80s, it was all about battles.
Yeah.
So battles. I'm going to say something, you're going to say something about. 90s, it escalated a little bit, shall we say. So then you had the introduction of Biggie, Tupac, and the overly aggressive lyrics. Now, I can't say that I've lived in that scenario or those conditions as to what they were rapping about. That's fine. I can go with that.
Not even, you don't find any of it relatable?
Some. But if you think about the top tunes that were coming out that people played on the hook, they played over and over. You had Snoop Dogg, you had Dr. Dre, you had Biggie, Tupac, Puff Daddy to a point, but put him to the side for now.
Yeah.
And we know why. But the lyrics that they were coming out with, I wouldn't necessarily recognise or relate to. People like A Tribe Called Quest, slightly different. I think the overly aggressive lyrics just manifested, and then I'm going to one up you, and I'm going to want you, and it just kept on going, rising, to the point where the success, you may have seen kind of the movies that have been produced about that time, around the way that music moguls would take over or music labels would take over. If they're doing it, then I've got to release this person, I've got to release this kind of music. And then it became mass produced. So then those lyrics started to lose feeling. There's more of just saying it for the sake of saying it.
Right, yeah.
Don't get me started on today's music in comparison. But I couldn't relate to the early hip hop. I could relate to the hook. I like the music, the tune. But the lyrics, you would mindlessly repeat and not really know what you're saying. And sometimes it's played upon in movies and programs where will challenge white people to sing the same lyrics that NWA was singing. Go on, let's see what you do. And then stop at a certain point because there's a certain N word that they can more. So as it's progressed through the noughties as we are to now, I don't know what we class as 20s.
I don't know. We're in some number. Just
yeah,
like, yeah.
20s, with the introduction of kind of grime, and it's an expression of what people are experiencing then, but then how relatable is that to the mass market? It's difficult to say that you would be.
I think, though, sorry to cut you off, but I don't think grime is about the mass market. No. It's going back to that, discussing, like, airing out their feelings.
Yeah. And I think, I really don't want to sound like it, but I feel like I sound like my mum 20 years ago when I just don't understand music. I can't relate to it. I don't particularly like it. And I'm going to say something really controversial that people always get on my back for. Drake, I don't understand. I'll never. Everything sounds samey to me. Whereas if you go back to the 90s and the 80s and even the 70s, the 70s was about love, which is great. 80s was about change, so the introduction of neon lights and edgy dressing. Disco kind of, which is close to me because I love disco. Disco kind of died mid 80s.
Okay.
I think the last album they said is the greatest disco is Michael Jackson's Off the Wall.
Okay.
That was classed as like the last great disco, and that was mid 80s. And then he changed and went more edgy. 90s was more about, similar to 70s, discovering yourself, discovering the emotions, and TLC, Next once again. A lot more rhythmic, a lot more. I mean, there are some dodgy things in there. But...
Yeah. So what I'm getting from you then is that obviously it depends on what tracks and stuff you were listening to.
Yeah.
I think so. Like so obviously there was that kind of music I was into when I was growing up. I think more the music I was listening to by myself is, I'm going to have your man, I'm going to take your man, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Like, let's cheat this and cheat that. Like,
I mean, there was a lot of that.
Yeah.
I mean, the first thing that jumps to mind is the likes of TLC with No Scrubs. You go, yeah. Gosh, although that wasn't.
That wasn't.
There was one before that, which I'm struggling to remember.
Yeah. And I think I know which one you mean, and I can't think of it.
I will pull my phone out because it is. I've got a lot of music on my phone.
Yeah, go on, find it.
Now I'm thinking, do I have it?
The one that they were singing, "Creep." Is that the one you're talking about?
Not necessarily. It's not even TLC.
Oh.
It will come back.
Yeah.
We'll come back.
But yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of kind of empowerment for women to say what they would like and what they. Mary J. Blige was so super powerful in the 90s because she said what she wanted to say, said it how it was, and because years before that, men could say what they wanted to, do what they wanted to. There wasn't really a response from female artists. When there was a change.
I don't know. Some men were changing then. I think, like Joe didn't want to be a player anymore.
Yeah. Then the remix of that with Joe on there, slightly different. Fat Joe. His version.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot more. I mean, I'll hold my hands up in the 90s. I loved being black growing up at that time with music.
Yeah.
Everyone fell in love with R&B. You went out to a club or a bar, whatever, R&B. On the radio, R&B. Styling, R&B. Just a good time.
So, but do you think that any of these, like the songs I'm on about in particular, like with the promote cheating and stealing people's man and all that, do you think that they have had an impact?
It'd be wrong to say no. I think it has. Music is a very emotional thing.
Yeah.
I find. So I think you gravitate to what you relate to the most. So I've got an eclectic like of music, so I listen to anything to a point.
Yeah.
And I'll try something. Always try music once or twice to see if I can get into it and get used to it. But I think if you like the rhythm, if you like the tune, if you like, and then you're going to start repeating the words, and it just naturally will. And I can think in music in the sense of if someone says a sentence or a word, I go, right, that song said that.
Yeah.
And that's how I relate to it.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there are loads of people out there that do that as well. But as you say, I'm taking a man. I've got 3 or 4 songs going through my head now. Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess it does create scope your mind into how you would think about certain things. Once again, it's all about morals and common sense as to whether you take that further or arrest it or do what you want to do with those messages. But if it's seen to be cool, if you see that's what every artist comes out with, if you see that's the type of music you're listening to, that's what your friends listen to, then it's going to shape how you are. I think the only answer to that would be listen to lots of different things. Well, my wife isn't really sure, but I go, let's listen to some country and western.
Yeah, I'd fall that face as well. Why?
Yeah. But even then, you listen to country and western. Like Charlie Pride was a big one that my mum listened to. And he'd be singing about not being able to give you much, but it's all about love. It's all about whatever I have, I'll give to you, etc., etc. And you go, okay, that's a general message. And country and western is generally about, I would say, troubles you've had or certain scenarios, etc. And it will get you thinking in that way when you listen to it. And if I say, okay, now go and listen to bubblegum pop like Britney Spears or something from the 90s, or Backstreet Boys is a good example. You listen to it and go, yeah, I can relate to that. I don't care who you are, where you're from. So it does shape you. I think it shapes you. But it is common sense and common courtesy to think, it wouldn't be right if I did that in reality. I can sing along to it, but it's still shaping my mind that I'm thinking about it.
Common courtesy, that's a thing of the past.
Yeah, I mean, I always call back to what my mum would do because she's very important in my life, and holding a door for someone. And if they didn't hold it for her, they would know about it. And once again, would you relate that to music, though? As in,
no. To be fair, I've just got off because, like, you said something that resonated with me, and I'm like, yeah, that's a thing of the past. So sorry, yeah.
But
so
it could with be me, to music.
With me, really?
It could be. But even then, if you think about the music videos from back in the day,
yeah,
and the R&B videos, you'd see. Let's take the example of Joe. I'm not sure if he did a video like that, but if he was taking a woman out to a meal, he would get out of his car, he'd go around and he'd open her door.
True. Yes.
And they'd get out. Yeah. Or if they're leaving, he'd open the door and make sure she's in. Get it? You get that? I mean, I don't even know if that still happens. No idea.
Don't ask me.
I was recently out with
I think it does. I think it depends who you're with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, go on. You was answering the question.
I was out recently with a couple of workmates who were ladies, and they were kind of waiting for me to walk through the door first. I was like, well, no, sure he's not dead. Here you go. Oh, thank you. You don't hear that very often. You'll go through first. And I don't know if that still happens or not.
So some men, I think, would argue that it doesn't happen anymore because there's an issue now with women not necessarily appreciating that sort of thing. So have you ever been met with that where you tried to be like open the door to someone and someone's like, I can open the door myself?
No. Normally there's a standoff. You go. No, you go. No, I insist you go. Okay. I think then maybe it's the way you approach it. I mean, maybe there's an element of I can do it for myself. I didn't say you couldn't. I'm just offering that you walk through first, or I'm offering that to open the door for you, or offer that you take the first drink, or you take the first bite, or whatever it may be.
So you think those things are important on a day-to-day, not just on a romantic aspect?
Yeah, day to day. It goes down to an element of respect as well. You respect each other, then you respect each other's space. There is an element of, yes, man versus woman divide, as if a man should do this and a woman should do this. I mean, that's blurred and that's changed massively now.
Yeah.
That's proper old school thinking. But I think there's still nothing wrong with me saying, you know what, you go first. I don't mind.
I want to know where you stand on that in a minute. But yeah, so I was thinking common courtesy has had an impact, like in the home as well, like with children between their parents and stuff like that. So like I think like I've found myself explaining to my kids a few times, you telling me, oh, I'm going out, I'm not having dinner today, or is not about me controlling you. So like I'm not trying to like tell you what to do, but you saying to me, Mum, this is what I'm doing today, is called. It's about having common courtesy. It's not about you giving me information that I can then be like, well, you can't do this and you can't do that. It's not like that.
I think that has changed a bit. I think children have changed, parenting has changed. It's common courtesy, and kids probably don't recognise the phrase, but it's the way that it was explained to me is I just need to know where you are so I know that you're safe. It's as simple as that. And, you know, as a teenager, you go, you don't need to know that. Why do you need to know that?
Yeah, I know that I'm safe. Why do I need to tell you?
Maybe because you were thinking, I want to get up to no good or mischief or whatever. But how I used to view it and how it used to be shifted to me was, what happens if what was to happen if anything happens to you and I just don't know? Because kids typically, if they need it or they want help, they will call for their parents. It's as simple as that.
And there's no community amongst parenthood anymore either. So it's not like such and such as mum will be able to give you a call and let you know that your child down the road fell off his bike or whatever. Like,
that's really interesting because I was thinking about this maybe a couple of weeks ago. I don't know where it came from.
Yeah.
But I remember being in Barbados, and if you get in the bus at the same time as everyone's going home, etc., you get on the bus, it's full. You go, I've got my child with me, what do I do? And typically, someone that sat down and go, do you want to sit down, or do you want me to sit your child on my lap so that you don't have to worry? Yeah, sure. On you go. Community spirit, because there'll be loads of people saying, offering you, come on. I don't think that would happen. In fact, no, Barbados might do, but I don't think that would happen here. It used to happen here because I used to be asked to sit on someone's lap just to wait until the next stop or whatever. And often times have changed, so people probably think sitting on laps is a bit, I don't want you to sit on that person's lap or whatever. But even in the close that I live in, could I name 5 of the parents that are in that close? Probably not. Like you used to hear, they're going to knock on the door for like a cup of sugar or whatever. You don't get any of that anymore. People have gravitated to be very selfish is a strong word. I don't mean it in a negative way, but more
maybe self-isolated.
Yeah, I think more acutely aware of themselves and what's going on around them. That I don't want that person knowing my business, or I don't really know that person, so I'm not going to get to know them. Or they may look interesting, which means I'm going to avoid them. There's more of that now. And we're a result of what's going on around us in the news, papers, stories, social media. So there's lots of things that can skew our thoughts and how we think of music. So, yeah, I think community feel, but say, I don't know if it's a southern thing as well. If there's a north-south divide, because, and a generational thing, because my wife is from Manchester, they've got a massive community feel. Everyone knows each other. They'll get their packages. They'll give each other their house keys if they need to do it. So it's completely different.
Well,
completely different. And I get the question, you guys don't have much of a community kind of feel down here, do you? No, because everyone's just, they want to go in, sit on the sofa, watch TV, go to sleep, get up, go to work, eat, sleep, repeat. So it's interesting. I don't know at what stage it just suddenly stopped or changed, but it has.
So I wonder what percentage of trauma is up there in comparison to down here, and if that has an impact. Because a lot of those things that you said about like not going in people's houses, not doing this, not doing that, I'm someone who is very funny like that. And that is based on my childhood trauma, because which has also then been like reintegrated or supported by people I've mixed with as an adult. However, that all stems back to childhood trauma, because obviously you would only attract a level of people, like certain people, to like where you're kind of at to a degree. Because I also believe you attract what you need to a good degree as well. So everything would all feed into that. So if I can't even trust people who are relatives, family, the people who you're supposed to be able to love and trust because they're your family, they're your parents, they raised you and all of that, why would I then think it's okay to trust my child in someone else's hands?
You wouldn't. Why would you?
Yeah.
I think we've had a conversation before about your internal beliefs and how you're brought up. And I think it's a lot to do with that. How you're brought up does mould how you would be as an adult, shall we say. It takes a lot of mental strength and awareness to change how you are as you're growing up. I think, as I said, I've always said core beliefs. The core beliefs, what's important to you. And we had this conversation before. I said family. My core belief. That's how I was brought up. Everyone helped everybody. No one struggled within the family. You shared it around and so forth.
But I had that as well at the same time.
However, what's connected to that belief? So my belief is, let's give an example. We'll do the comparison.
Okay, cool. So,
my core belief for family is family comes first. You look after everybody. You make sure that everybody's okay and safe, and you make sure that everyone is happy as well as can be.
Yeah.
And when I say family comes first, then you do what you can for your family to make sure they're happy. But from your perspective, you say family is a core belief. But what is your understanding of what your core belief is?
So now I can list what you have said. And I think I could still list that before, for me personally. But I don't think that has been, it has been instilled in me from family, but not in the right way.
Okay.
So I've heard that narrative many times before. Family comes first. You mustn't chat your business. Our family is important. All whilst abuse is going on in and around the households. So how do you?
Let's not go too deep or dig too deep, because we don't want to unlock bad things. But
my life, it's not good. It's fine. It's absolutely fine.
The message you were getting as to family comes first, was that from the people that were providing the abuse as well?
Yeah.
Then my presumption or assumption, shall we say, of that is that they didn't believe that. They would just say it, but their actions are contradicting what they're saying. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, to boil it down to as basic as possible, family comes first, and every weekend I'm out getting hammered with the mates, or I'm away from home 5 out of 7 of the days, not being constructive or not working, whatever, then how is that me putting my family first? It's me putting myself first, and then just saying the rhetoric of family comes first. what I'm doing with my actions is not necessarily showing what I'm saying.
But then aren't you also your family? So where does taking care of yourself and your needs fit into this?
So that's an interesting point, because I keep on spouting this to people to the point where they must be really fed up of hearing me say it, is you've got to be kind to yourself. You've got to be. Everyone has their limits, right? No one's perfect, and everyone has their different limits. So you'll get to a point where you just go, do you know what? I appreciate this, but I just need some downtime, or I need this afternoon, or I need no interruptions, or whatever it may be. But then you have to recognise that within yourself. If you don't recognise it, it's difficult to do. And we get into a vicious circle of I must help, which means I haven't got time to do this, which means I need to do this instead, but I must help, I haven't got time to do this bit, and it just keeps going round and round. And eventually that circle's going to break, and that's probably you breaking. And I know someone at the moment that's going through that. So they're a key pillar of their family, but then their partner is struggling, which means that then they're having to look after their partner as well as do their day job, as well as look after the kids, as well as be the mainstay for their family. One of those things is going to break. And unfortunately, the thing that's most likely going to break is that person in the middle, because of all the responsibility and all the pressure. So you have to be kind to yourself and just say, look, for a day or a weekend, just get away from it all. Now, we all have our vices and our releases. My release is music. Well, it has been, and I can tell you why it is. Yeah. Because I haven't listened to much music in the last... Since my mum passed, I haven't listened to much music because I always related music to my mum. She listened to it every weekend, every day of the week. She had a record player, which I've now got. Her records. And it's taken me a bit of time to just go, yeah, I'll listen to that one. And show my age here, I watch BBC 4 on a Friday night. And when I said that to a few people, they're like, yes, it's one of the best things to do on a Friday night. What? BBC 4, because of the music they play. So they'll go back and they'll play music from different generations, etc. And I took a dip in the last kind of couple of weeks thinking about it, because I was hearing stuff in the 80s that had just been released. So at that time, my mum would have been the same age as I am now. Which is? 41. Yeah. 30s to 41. So around about that period of time. Yeah. And I sit there and I think to myself, my mum would have had this for the first time at that time. And I love this song because I listened to it back then. Then I relate, okay, I love this song, my mum loved this song. And then you start going, oh, yeah, that person's no longer around. But my release is music. I'll listen to something I like. I'll listen to something new to see what I would like, and release in that sense. And then it's each individual person. What is your release? Is it going to a spa? Is it going to play sport? Is it playing games? Is it going to see friends and sitting around and chatting? You just need to, whatever you know will make you feel relaxed and alleviate the pressure on your shoulders. I say do it as often as you can. That's reasonable. From a family perspective. But once again, go back to music. Without a shadow of a doubt, music would be the one that I would. If you have any thoughts on today's topics, please leave a comment down below. Or if you would like to come and join us for a podcast, please send an email to myvoiceandpower@outlook.com. To hear any of the music that was talked about during the podcast, tune in to www.unityliveradio.co.uk for the full show every Thursday at 9 p.m. But there is also a Your Voice in Power hour for the voices that still wanted to be heard but not shown. Always remember to spread your wings, speak your truth, write it down and let it go. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the next show.